Welcome back to our final segment. In our Carinine hour, we've been enjoying a conversation with Sir Arthur. We started off with what he called the second emancipation with majority rule in 1967, and now we are approaching nearly 50 years, 2 more years, and have 50 years of that movement. And I introduce it by referring to it as a movement and not just a political party thing. So I want to emphasize, I think that it has been, I think in the introduction to the bill in the Parliament, it was made clear that this is not a PLP memorial, this is a national, because it represents a shift in the national life of the country, and it must be seen as something national.
Exactly.
And some people question whether we should have a public holiday. Well, I can understand the business community saying, well, it's so close to Christmas, why have another holiday? But I think that there are certain things in the history and one's culture and one's whole upbringing that need to be celebrated.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, creating the holiday by itself does not create the celebration. What we, I think you adverted to earlier, we need to give some content to the celebration, to retell our story and to retell who we are as a people. And I would like to see part of that retelling also a greater focus on this one community. We are one. The Jamaicans have their motto, out of many one, but we definitely, that would apply to us. And I would like to see a stronger emphasis on unity. How do we come together and how can we work together? Because unfortunately, no one group has all the answers, and no one group has all the talents.
Absolutely.
But if we come together and work together, we can make this country a better country. And if we could use this day as a mechanism for getting across that message, I believe we may be able to get through.
Well, I hope that next year, I hope somebody's listening to what we're talking about today, and I hope that next year there will be a proper program, nationally, not just leave it to 1 or 2 people, but a national program. We like to imitate the Americans. Let's imitate them in this, how they go about with their independence thing. They have functions, they celebrate, they have things on the television, they recall stories, and that's what it ought to be about, not just, we'll soon forget what it's about.
Well, yes, another holiday.
Just another holiday.
That's another holiday. And we miss the richness and the importance of what has taken place. But in terms of helping to forge that way forward, it might be because I'm getting old now, but when I look back on what I call the old Bahamas, I really believe we've lost a lot of good stuff that helped to make us. You are from Inagua, I'm from Berry Island, but we know about family island life and the sense of community that existed. And we seem to have lost that almost completely.
You know, we've always had this problem of children born out of wedlock. We've always had that. There's more of it today than back then. But back then, these children were in the family islands, at least in Inagua, they were not left out. They had auntie and grandpa and grandma and uncle, and they were brought up and there was no difference. So, you know, that's a huge problem that we have, and that we have to address that as well. Making people feel included. Because if you don't, as we mentioned earlier, you will pay the price for it later on.
But the sense of community, that seemed to me that, again, every effort has to be made to
You remember when you could leave your door open at night? And you could call on a neighbor so easily. Some of us don't even know who the neighbor is.
Now. And I remember in the Long Island, where the lady was shouting to the next door neighbor, say, try close the door because those Nassau people come in. But the openness and the closely knit aspects of the society.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of ordinary
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
in those days, and the sense of helping out one another.
Mhm.
And individualism seems to have crept in now.
Yes, yes,
We don't have that connectedness that we used to
yes.
have.
yes. I tell people, today we're experiencing very happily a sort of renaissance in our artistic culture. We have some young people who are doing wonderful things in various aspects of our culture, the performing arts and the visual arts and all that. But I always say, just as we are proud of that, and this is what you're referring to, our social culture,
Yes.
because that's a part of us too. If you're proud of our artistic culture, let us also look at the positive aspects of the social culture that we have. Common good manners. People used to come here, as you know, sir, to just experience Bahamians. We were so mannerly. We said, yes, sir,
yes,
no,
sir,
ma'am.
and
We were respectful to
good
other
morning,
people.
good
And
afternoon,
exactly,
yes.
exactly. But I was told that I was in there, I mean, I say that up front, but I was told that at a conference abroad, I think it was the Caribbean conference, all the heads of the Caribbean states were there, and a young reporter was, it was asking a question. He started off, you guys. You're talking to presidents and prime ministers, and he starts off, what do you guys know?
But that was something unheard of
Exactly.
in our upbringing.
Right.
But in terms of what I call the old Bahamas and the new Bahamas, as we approach the final moments of our talk, I wonder, how are you optimistic or pessimistic in terms of looking to the future?
Yeah, in the last couple of years, I like to think I'm an optimist, but my optimism has been shaken a bit.
At least challenged.
That's challenged. But I believe that, I still believe that as a people, we've proven in the past that we are resilient people, and that we are a resourceful people. But it is those things that we have to call out again in our people, and we need leadership to do that in the church, in politics, in society, in business, across the board, to call out these finer qualities that we have so we can restore our country. And it is still a great little country.
It still is. And it has great potential.
Absolutely.
But
so I hope that we'll be able to deal with the challenges. And I'm sure with the help of God, if we put our minds to it, then we can do it.
I think one of the issues is going to be a moral one, really. Every community needs what I call the social and cultural anchors to give meaning and purpose to the society. And I think we have shifted from where we used to be. And I think we need now to honestly look at where we are and see how we can restore some of the old values and the old standards.
And one value we need to restore, and I'm not being flippant here, and that is the capacity to be ashamed. Some people are not ashamed of anything. I was on a Bahamas Air flight, and this young fella came on with slippers and T-shirt traveling. That struck me as rather odd,
Cultural assault almost. And not knowing the difference with some people.
No sense of propriety.
Exactly.
No sense of propriety.
And probably was someone, if you spoke to him about it, might even want to fight or at least be abusive in words. But these are the finer things in life that you can't really, you don't learn it from a book. These are part of the experience of the community. And these finer things, it seems to me, have received so little emphasis because we've been so busy trying to get rich and trying to acquire things that we haven't paid attention to dealing. Well, it's part of the cultural and social development that really tends to go by the board because we are so focused on material
getting
things.
More, We've become very acquisitive, I agree. Which is fine for people to make money and all the rest of that, but there are other things to be done.
Well, you don't build a community just by going after
and the
those
various
things.
ways to measure success.
Yes.
I admire a businessman who builds a big business and becomes very prosperous. He contributes to the country. But I also admire the teacher who stays in that classroom year after year with little pay. He or she is also a great success in the students that they turn out.
And need to be honored.
I need to be honored and recognized.
Because we have to find ways of lifting up
Mhm.
the little people.
Right.
And because they really contribute far more significantly than is usually given credit for.
Right,
Because
exactly.
and the little, especially look at our island communities. So many people who keep them going, who never get
Yes,
mentioned.
never get credit, never get recognition.
But
And that is important too. Yes.
they keep the community going.
Mhm.
And they provide this sense of what I call the anchoring. They are examples in the community of where the community is supposed to be headed. But I fear that I see signs now in which indicate that that kind of thing is not just not being taught anywhere. People don't see that it makes any sense.
Yes,
anymore.
I know.
They don't think it's no longer relevant.
No, yeah, it's not cool.
So that but they aren't replacing it.
Mhm.
It seems to me that we're close to creating a social vacuum because if you don't put something there, you're going to create
it. Yeah.
And if we're going to replace it just with all the vulgarisms and all of the,
Exactly.
from the biblical term, the shibboleths of things that we are not headed in the right direction. So I started by asking you about pessimism or optimism, but I mean,
I think fundamentally I'm
mentally-
optimistic. The challenges are immense, but I think we can do it.
well, I think that we definitely can,
Yeah.
but I don't think we will unless we create a climate, or we create the environment in which we can work together, we can collaborate,
Right.
and we can agree to differ
Yes, exactly.
and still
And
work
still-
together
and
for
still
the
build a country. Exactly.
And if we can get that kind of spirit across in the church and all of the institutions of the country, we can really get some movement going. But
Hopefully.
I hope that we can get some traction, because I find the polarization is a bit challenging right now, and we need to transcend that to be able to help to get our country where we want to go. But we started with majority rule, and it does seem to me that that opened up the New Bahamas. And for me now, it's a moral issue. Whether this New Bahamas, are we going to get there or are we going to flounder?
Just
And
the
answer to Quo Vadis.
Quo Vadis.
But the answer is in the future.
Yes.
But I would want to look forward to the future and hope that we will get it together and we will achieve what we started to do, the objectives that we set out in the 60s, that we will seek to materialize them for the future. So thank you once again for
My great
coming.
pleasure.
Oh, it
My
was
great pleasure.
wonderful having you with us, and
Okay.
I hope that you will continue to enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Sam.
I'm in the process of learning how to retire.
I've done it several times.
And to our viewers, we say good night and
Good night.
God bless.